All right, listen up, squares. You're getting a twofer today because that episode that I released earlier was not long enough. Sometimes I wake up with some pretty severe upper back pain from an injury I sustained about 2 years ago, sleeping wrong, and then pushing myself up to an even worse position. Kind of subconsciously, this actually happened from falling asleep while meditating, not listening to the masters and saying, I'm different, I'm built different, I can fly as close to the sun as I want, and then falling asleep while meditating and hurting my neck pretty severely. But it is what it is. A good way of helping any variety of pain and weakness is remembering that your body is not just one, circular thing. It's actually, through gravity, it's designated four corners: front right, front left, back right, back left. And this is available in martial arts, switching or singular actions that don't switch, and kicks that can propel you to your back, and roundhouse kicks that propel you from back to front. All of that is very, very important when you're actually learning how to actually fight instead of just fantasize about punching people. And this is a stretch that I taught Gnome, and he actually thanked me for it, so I'm sure that he saw it. After he was carrying fertilizer up his stairs for his banana pepper plants and his wacky cilantro and his, I think he had, no, tomatoes was the year after that, and that failed spectacularly for some reason. It's been a very unlucky couple of years for the harvest, so that wasn't his fault at all. He tried. But he hurt his back while he was carrying fertilizer up his apartment steps. I taught him this stretch, which is lock yourself completely. Lock your shoulders. Lock your legs and knees. Make sure that your feet are going straight. Your knees are exactly in line with your legs and your feet, and your shoulders are perfectly in line with that too. And then you go down and try and touch your ear to your head, and then you stretch it forward in 90 degrees. Go back up, do the other side, stretch it down. You can actually do that in the backside too, and that has helped me a lot in de-stressing my neck problems. So I'm not a professional, but that is a good set of stretches to do. And most importantly, just remembering that your body operates through the way that its joints and its tendons prefer with gravity, in four corners. And if you try to take one corner and stretch it a way that another corner would, you're probably going to end up having some problems. So be mindful of that. That mindfulness and that awareness of the sectionality of your body is very important. Or you could just make noise constantly because you don't want to be alone with your thoughts, and then live like a big baby and jump from drug to drug, to hedonism, to pleasure, and then take out all your pain and your frustration and your fear out on people that cross your path in a weird way. You can do that. You can live in pain. You can live in darkness. You can do that. Or you can be a man or a woman. I really, really dislike the idea of a permanently submissive woman. And my psychological type is that. The intellectual man is that of being fascinated with femme fatales. And the girl from Kiwi Farms from Wales that I was very much attracted to is a firebrand. Absolute firebrand. So, I really, really dislike the Far East Asian system that they have their women wrapped up in. That's, in my opinion, that's gross. Foot binding? What the hell? Come on, guys. Stop that. Stop mutilating your women. And can we stop pretending that like a million piercings is all right? Can we stop pretending that nipple piercings aren't just like an affront to God and add absolutely nothing and just deaden, numb, like extreme light, like extreme vibration? It just numbs you. It's not cool, it's not powerful, it's not impressive. It's just a deadening of reality and a living in that fantasy in an almost pseudo-permanent way. So, anyways, let's get into it. Let's talk about biblical genealogies. I am a pragmatic realist, and I also believe in Christianity as a genuinely insightful and advanced system. But you go back, and I was talking about this earlier, about how the Old Testament is full of flaws. You go back and you see these people live to like 900, 800, 700 years. There's a variety of theories that could be. One could be that they weren't aware of time. I think that there are some people that are recorded to live to 150 years, honestly, because the conceptualization when they were recorded 7,000, 8,000 years ago was that of 10 months, before the Greeks had locked up solar rotation and could perfectly predict eclipses and stuff like that. But there's another theory that I thought up, that the names could have been passed down like the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and then after 900 years, a different name, second, third, fourth, fifth, etc., etc., etc. That's a very viable theory for that. But it's also possible, a third theory, that over time the telephone game turns into a fishtail, where it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the kings and leaders there end up being like, 20,000 years old, because why not? I don't personally think that's very monotheistic, because it's putting way too much onus into the body. Protestants actually kind of probably agree with me a little bit on that, whereas Catholics start wailing about incorruptibility and stuff like that, which, I'm not God. I don't know. I know that Jesus overcame death through death. I know that his sacrifice, his dedication and his peace and his contrite and honorable death is far superior than him coming back with a sword and then beating up all the people that were mean to me. I think that what is already done is far superior than anything that could be possibly done, and therefore the sort of Kabbalistic, Talmudic, John of Patmos written Book of Revelations, well, a lot more intelligent people than me has said that it has a lot more similarities to the Talmud than to what Christ actually spoke. So, apostolic, Pentecostal. You got to do your own research. You got to... Ultimately, nobody's going to be able to place the knowledge of divine things in your head. That takes a very long time, and the best advice is the advice that Steve Bannon tendered recently, is like, accept the fact that if you're young, you're still basically a catechumen in the faith, you're still a novice, and you need to just be quiet, You got 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, but only 1 mouth. And why is that? Well, maybe because God has given us a little hint to listen and observe twice as much as we put back out. And probably a lot of the people that you respect are more quiet than neurotic. So keep that in mind. Thule was the island and it's actually called Greenland now, that the Norse Vikings, Leif Erikson, I think, was the first person to hit that, but he might not have been. Thule was the island that the Vikings came to permanently inhabit, and I actually found this out. This is a surprising little thing that most people don't know. The Eskimos actually genocided the Eskimos, who come from a much, 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 much later technological branch of northern Chinese diaspora. They genocided the Thule settled Vikings. Straight up, just wiped them out by the 13th century. Now, there's also a lot of things going on, droughts and stuff like that happened to pop off in the 9th and 10th century. The soil records are pretty clear on that. But, yeah. However, there's also something called the Thule Society, which is an occultist Nazi group that viewed the Hyperborean aspect, which is flat Earth. As I've explained, flat Earth is mostly propagated by the Nazis in history, in recent history. Even the Romans and the Greeks, they believed in a circular Earth. So Thule is kind of like a pre-Hyperborean, ideal. And once again, this cheapening of history, this misunderstanding of the Vikings, really upsets me. And I can't help but blame Guido von List for all of that, for taking good pagan culture and warping it into a weapon of state propaganda. That's no bueno. That's Masonic, and I do not approve of that. So, shifting baseline syndrome is exactly why people can accept cheaper and cheaper things as things move on, as every single recreation of things gets stepped down into worse and worse quality. It's because of shifting baseline syndrome. It's the exact same reason why we accept cheaper environments, worse cities, more ecological disasters, more poison, more mental illness. It's the shifting baseline that every generation accepts things that are worse and worse and worse than the previous generation because they didn't know what the previous generation grew up with. Shifting baseline syndrome. Another way that works is through patents and ID protection. Saying that, oh, this thing is mine and it's going to be mine for 150 years. Here's the legal, documents on it. Well, that just completely and utterly arrests science, doesn't it? I think it does. And, science is not a facet of propaganda and popularity and politics. It's a pragmatic system by which things are delegated and sorted properly and ordered. It's not up to the Fraternal Order of the Police or the New World Order or the International Monetary Fund or NGOs to give people orders. They don't have it all figured out. They have their propaganda and politics figured out, but they don't have the scientific method figured out. And if you want something that's a little bit more superior to the American Medical Association's orders that change every year in the books that they publish, try the Codex Alimentarius. It's more close to the World Health Organization, but it's also closer to European standards on health. And the science is in that the European standards on health are far superior than those in the far west over here. But let's get into one of the nastier little buggers that likes to warp science, which is Monsanto, now Bayer, as well as DuPont, they're good friends. Science magazine rates Monsanto as one of the 20 best companies to work for. And Forbes rates them as one of the greatest businesses to ever exist. But actual scientists rate them as the worst science company. Up there with DuPont, they release mercury, PCB, Teflon into the environment, ton of forever chemicals, ton of toxic and poisonous stuff in massive amounts, as well as herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, destroying particular types of seeds so that they can, genetically modifying seeds so that you will never be able to get seeds of your own from the crops that you plant and instead have to buy new seeds every single cycle. And that is incredibly evil. It'll have people on a permanent leash when it comes to ordering from DuPont to get more Roundup Ready soy seeds to replace all the native ecosystem and all the variety that they could have had. And Beau Biden, when he was a lawyer, got one of the scions of the DuPont family off after that man had raped his infant daughter. Beau Biden got that guy off with a $5,000 fine. Look that up. Look it up if you don't believe me. He was the good one, too, huh? Mm-hmm. God, I wish I knew that 4 or 5 years ago. I voted against Joe Biden, in the Democratic primary. But because I listened to Bernie, I voted for him. Now, it wouldn't have mattered much, but I was so angry when Bernie told me to vote for him again. And guess what? Bernie's full of shit anyways because he didn't know what was going on. Biden ended up dropping out. So I completely cut Bernie off after that. It sickens me. It sickens me. And it's so upsetting because I saw the man fight. And when I was running 30 to 50 miles a week and I was very healthy and I was very motivated, it's because I was, excited for a potential Bernie president. But I literally watched in Michigan them switch 200,000 votes from Bernie to Biden. I was watching the minutes, I was watching the seconds, and like that, switched over. And then they shut down a bunch of polling locations. They didn't announce that COVID was a real thing, which they did as soon as Bernie dropped out. And they said that you can vote from mail as soon as Bernie dropped out. And they were stacking lines up out in front of these places for a mile. And people were getting sick as they marched into these small areas. And Bernie, instead of recognizing that more lives would be lost in the long run, chickened out. And he said he didn't want to be responsible for the death of voters. It is what it is, man. I started to physically break down. Like, actually, I was continuing to run, and I started to get, like, little injuries that were piling up. And my motivation was, like, dragging. And it's crazy, like, that willpower manifested so much energy and strength and health in me. And then afterwards, it's like I literally felt like I got shot. That's what it felt like. Here's what it is, Can't hate. Can't hate. That's what the enemy wants. Can't hate. Seth Rogen is the best anti-weed commercial you could ever possibly have. And you couldn't even fake something that's as effective as that. Seth Rogen represents just how unfunny and annoying and insipid one can get if all they do all day and all night is smoke weed. Oh, by the way, a little hint. Monsanto is a Sephardic Jewish family. The QAnon shaman is a fascinating fella. I always thought that he was actually pretty cool when I learned about him. And I'm glad that he is free. Pretty sure he's free, right? Yeah. And I hope that all those January 6 guys, they get out. Even Enrique Tarrio, even the federal informant, leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio. He doesn't deserve to be locked up forever because of that either. And it's crazy that Fuentes was very, very involved in all of that. As involved as Enrique Tarrio, yet he got off with a slap on the wrist. Oh, I can't fly. I'm going to cry. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, right. I'm trying to put Fuentes out of my mind because he is cashed out. Anyways, Magnus the Red from Warhammer 40k. People say he did nothing wrong. Well, he wasn't devout enough. And that's exactly how his Luciferian intellect overwhelmed his faith. And what makes a saint in the Imperium is somebody who has psychic powers, a psyker, whose faith in the Emperor, instead of manifesting through demonic possession, manifests through a manifestation of the Emperor in them. And it's exactly one of the reasons why I feel that Warhammer 40k, despite being very anthroposophilical, one of those words, it is very Christian coded, I'd say. I mean, he is, the Emperor of Mankind is like the great phoenix, so it's like Abrahamic, in general. I don't like using the term Judeo-Christian. That's a very interesting recent term, and I know a lot about that term personally. And it didn't start with Ben Shapiro, but he's probably the biggest propagator of it. And Ben Shapiro, who is also getting pretty close to being cashed out when it comes to how many people will follow him down the rabbit hole of lies continuously year after year. He's definitely somebody who has allowed the Luciferian intellect to overwhelm him. I've always said that he's an ivory tower intellectual and he has no street smarts whatsoever, and that's exactly why he can say things as stupid as Palestinians like to live in human sewage. Direct quote from Ben Shapiro. So don't let your studying and your good IQ and your violin playing be superior in your mind to humbleness and humility. And, like, seriously, do some exercise, Something that helps my neck a lot is doing squats, squatting up and down. It's great. You know, the more you use your quadriceps, which is your thigh muscles, your upper leg muscles, the more natural growth hormone your body releases. It's a big way of stimulating your body to create that. So, you know, get after it, guys and gals. Be feisty, be a firebrand. Take care.